Today, we're going to explore the Dead Sea Scrolls, what they are, some quick facts about them, and two major impacts they have made. First, what are they? The Dead Sea Scrolls are ancient texts first discovered by Bedouin goat herders and later by archaeologists. The Dead Sea Scrolls contain thousands of fragments of documents, including biblical books, hymns, prayers, and other writings. The Great Isaiah Scroll might be the most famous document found. It contains all 66 chapters of the Old Testament book of Isaiah. The scroll is dated to around 125 years before Christ. Of that scroll, archaeologist William F. Albright wrote, "What an absolutely incredible find. And there can happily be not the slightest doubt in the world about the genuineness of the manuscript." Now, here are some quick facts about the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls were compiled through a series of discoveries dating between 1947 and 1956. The documents were found in 11 different caves near Qumran on the northwestern shore of the Dead Sea in Israel. The age of the documents is interesting. Some date from around the 3rd century BC on the older end to the 1st century AD on the newer end. Scholars use various methods to date the Dead Sea Scrolls. Those methods include carbon 14 dating, paleographical dating, which studies ancient writing forms, orthographical dating, which studies spelling, archaeological dating using pottery, coins, weave patterns on cloth, and other things to corroborate the dating of the documents. Interestingly, there's an AI model named Enoch, which analyzed around 135 fragments and revealed an even earlier date for some documents, even as far back as 400 years before Christ. The jury's still out on the accuracy of that model, but stay tuned for further research. Let's now look at major impacts the Dead Sea Scrolls have made. First, proving biblical prophecy. To understand this point, we first have to go backwards. Christians have always held that the Bible contained prophecies, specific predictions made centuries in advance that were miraculously fulfilled. Is, of course, possible because God knows all things, including the future. A popular criticism of this Christian belief in biblical prophecy was that there were not existing manuscripts prior to the time of Christ, and the thinking went that there were no safeguards preventing, say, people from changing the book of Isaiah or Daniel after the fact to better reflect the life of Jesus and make it look like prophecy. I highlight Isaiah and Daniel specifically because both have incredibly important prophecies that are fulfilled by Jesus. The odds of these prophecies being predicted and fulfilled are so astronomical that they could not reasonably occur by chance alone. Now, I say this was a popular criticism because a major impact of the Dead Sea Scrolls is that they prove that these prophecies were indeed prophecies made centuries before Christ and fulfilled by him. This should be shocking to you if you aren't a Christian. We literally have the documents that are before the time of Christ and that prove the Bible is a supernatural book because of the many prophecies made and fulfilled in the life of Jesus. Skeptics can't hide behind the objection of, well, maybe the prophecies actually happened after the fact and were just made to look like prophecies. Alternatively, chalking this up to chance or good luck isn't reasonable either. Would you explain a dice landing 10 billion times in a row as just good luck? Dr. Norman Geisler writes that the Dead Sea Scrolls are important in showing that the predicted prophecies of the Old Testament were indeed made centuries before they were literally fulfilled. Secondly, the Dead Sea Scrolls prove the Bible was faithfully transmitted over time. The Dead Sea Scrolls push back our earliest manuscripts of certain Old Testament texts by more than 1,000 years. How much change occurred in that 1,000+ year span? How much corruption? Really, the answer is no significant change at all. In his book titled The Dead Sea Scrolls, Miller Burrows, scholar and leading authority on the subject, wrote, "It is a matter of wonder that through something like 1,000 years, the text underwent so little alteration." Gleason Archer observes the two copies of Isaiah found in Qumran Cave 1, quote, "proved to be word for word identical with our standard Hebrew Bible in more than 95% of the text. The 5% variation consisted chiefly of obvious slips of the pen and variations of spelling." In other words, the text of Isaiah from before the time of Christ is the same text we have today. Scholar Krista Bontrager writes, "That's the great thing about the scrolls. What they're telling us is that the scriptures we've been using were 97 to 99% accurate. The scrolls really did provide a powerful check of the accuracy of the scriptures as they had been handed down." The 1 to 3% gap, again, being cited as spelling mistakes or spelling differences. Spelling variation does not impact any beliefs or doctrines, and the Dead Sea Scrolls absolutely destroy this ridiculous telephone game analogy that critics love to say. Just pause for a second to reflect on that point. Skeptics will try to say biblical transmission and copying of the text were like the game of telephone. Muslims will say the text is hopelessly corrupted. Their claims don't have any ground to stand on. If you honestly just look at the evidence, it is clear that the Bible has been faithfully preserved across time. If you want to reject the Bible, the fulfilled prophecies, and the evidence, my question to you is this: what better explanation is there of the fulfilled prophecies and faithful preservation of the Bible than the explanation that it is the Word of God? Maybe it's because God inspired the Bible, God knows the future, and God knows how to preserve His Word.